What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and woke loser Colin Kaepernick is finally getting called out by some people for his absolute hypocrisy by being someone who has said, I just have to speak out about this. I can't stay silent. Because as we've learned from these losers, silence is violence. So evidently, if you're quiet about it, it must mean that you condone that thing. Well, Colin Kaepernick is sponsored by Nike. We all knew what this was. A huge virtue signal by Nike to use Colin Kaepernick as their spokesperson. Well, what has Nike been doing? Over the past several weeks and months, they have been spending millions of dollars to lobby the United States to make it easier for them to use slave labor in China. However, Colin Kaepernick, absolutely silent about the entire thing, very willing to speak out about when someone gets rightfully killed by the police, when a criminal gets shot by the police, you have to talk about that. But when the company that's giving you all this money is using slave labor and trying to make it easier for it to happen, you're quiet, aren't you, Colin Kaepernick? Take a look at this headline. Kaepernick quick to condemn U.S. slavery, silent on Nike ties to Chinese slave labor. Now, myself personally, listen, I'm not going to judge you if you're wearing Nikes. I've got Nike stuff, but there's a difference. When you're one of these people, when you're an SJW who is trying to go out there and call out everybody for the way they're acting, hold everyone in the United States accountable for the systemic racism that's going on, but then you ignore all this other shit because it's not convenient for you, then I'm going to call you out. Then I'm going to call you out, Colin Kaepernick, you piece of shit. So let's take a look at this. Since his debut as a leading athlete protester against the United States, Colin Kaepernick has time and time again slammed the U.S. over slavery, even though it was eliminated more than 150 years ago. Yet Kaepernick has remained utterly silent as his financial backer, Nike, employs slave labor in China to make its products. This month, news that the giant multinational corporations, that many of them, including Nike, have been 218 in Congress against the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. Now, what is that talking about? It's talking about this. There are a bunch of U.S. brands, including Nike, including Apple, including others, who are actively trying to stop this bill that is making it harder for them to use slave labor. Basically, what it says is if you import products from this area in China, known for using the Uyghur slave labor camps, you have to prove that it wasn't made by slaves. Otherwise, you can't import it to the United States. Well, they don't like that because they want to keep their stuff cheap. They want to keep making that money. They want to use this slave labor. So Colin Kaepernick, shockingly, has not said anything about this. Look at this. Apple, Patagonia, Adidas, and many others, including Nike, were named in a study by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute that identifies 83 international corporations that use factories where the ruling Communist Party of China uses thousands of Uyghur Muslims as slave labor. And of course, Colin Kaepernick has been completely quiet, and people are starting to talk about this. Here's Washington Examiner. Nike uses Kaepernick and BLM to distract you from their support of Islamophobia of Islamophobic genocide. What has Colin Kaepernick been up to since then? What has Colin Kaepernick been saying? Has he been speaking out while this is happening? No, he's continuing to play the victim. This was just a couple days ago. 1,363 days of being denied employment. Still putting in work with Ed Reed. Still going hard 5 days a week. Colin Kaepernick, you are such a hypocritic little bitch because we know that he had a chance. He's had several chances to get back in the NFL, and he has missed out on all of them. The idea that anyone is keeping Colin Kaepernick out of the league at this point is absolutely nonsense. It is garbage. Look at what happened just the other day. Just the other day on Thanksgiving, where more people were tuned in maybe than any other time this year, Deshaun Watson, black quarterback for the Houston Texans, is kneeling. Matthew Stafford, white quarterback for the Detroit Lions, is kneeling. This was the same game when the entire nation's eyes are on it. The NFL has issued you a fucking apology, Colin Kaepernick. No one is denying you employment. No one wants you on their team. That's different from being denied employment. It has nothing to do with you kneeling at this point. The entire NFL is kneeling as their ratings plummet. They have doubled down on this. But Colin Kaepernick continues to play the victim, just like he always does. Meanwhile, even as his patron benefits from Chinese slave labor in real time, the former San Francisco 49ers second-string quarterback who's more famous for his political pronouncements and activism than his playing, has utterly ignored China's modern slave labor system. Yet at the same time, he's been a constant critic of America's long-ago connections to slavery, including, remember on 4th of July when he came out and said, I can't support 4th of July in a place where slavery existed? Even though 6 years ago he was wishing everyone a happy 4th of July, because he is a hypocrite, because he is an idiot. Just like so many of his supporters, so many of his fans are absolute idiots. That's just who they are. That is what they are. It shouldn't be a surprise to any of us that the people that believe his nonsense, that believe the fact, that he is being held out of the NFL for some reason, that they're morons. Look at this person. I barely know anything about about football, and it's obvious to me he has an elite level arm. I hope the NFL pays for decades for this mistake. Thank you for leading on the correct side of history. Imagine admitting you don't know anything about football, but it's obvious he has an elite arm. Well, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Shouldn't be surprised when we go and check that out. It's over and over again. So many of his supporters know nothing about football. So many of his supporters are just obsessed with identity politics and social justice, because that is all Colin Kaepernick is at this point. He was, he had a great run. He had a great run, a couple years, better than a lot of people ever expected he would have, but he just wasn't that guy. Defenses caught on so quickly to who he was and what he did as a quarterback, and his passer rating just went down and down and down and down until eventually you had to go with someone else. And we have seen enough of him in this league, and he has missed so many opportunities that NFL teams don't want him. You had the Seahawks that said they were interested. The Ravens said they were interested. The Broncos said they were interested. All of these things, who said they were interested in signing Colin Kaepernick, he blew it because he doesn't want to be on a team. It is more profitable for this little bitch to continue to play victim, right? It is more profitable for him to be a victim than it is to be a failed football player. And if he actually went back, if he didn't sabotage himself, that's what he would be, a failed football player who is now looking the other way. Even as he speaks out about things that happened 150 years ago in this country, he looks the other way when his employer is actively using slave labor. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.